Can you hear me now? Yes, you can. Ooh, welcome to the meeting. Welcome to our work session. Today is June 8th, 2026. We have Councilmember Newell, Councilmember Harrison, Councilmember Freeman, Councilmember Lockhart on the dais. I do believe Councilmember Stallings is joining us electronically. Is that true? Yes, great. We'll go ahead and get started with a couple reminders. Reminder number one, this is a work session, so there won't be any open public comment today. And with that, we will open with an opening prayer from Councilmember Newell.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're grateful that we're able to gather here today as a city council and city staff and be able to discuss the needs of our incredible city. We ask the Heavenly Father to bless our staff and our departments and just be able to hope that they feel the gratitude that our city has for each of them and the responsibilities that they carry to provide us with such an incredible place to live. We ask thee to have thy spirit be with us as we go throughout this meeting, that we'll be able to listen and be able to have empathy for each other and to see the positives and the best intents of each other. We, again, thank the Heavenly Father that we have this opportunity to serve and ask thee to keep our residents safe and protected. May I say these things in Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Councilmember Newell. One other thing is thank you for those who are in attendance. We appreciate that you're here. With that, we'll open to discussion items number 2, and we'll start with 2.1, the water conservation update. We hope you have a great update.
Hey, Mayor.
You have?
Could I quickly?
Oh, quickly, yes.
Sorry to steal your thunder. We just thought at the beginning of the work session, just really quick, I wanted to introduce you to our new code compliance specialist, Caden Peterson. Super excited to have him on board. He's been an intern for about eight and a half months with planning. He just graduated earlier this year with his planning degree, but we're going to bring him on full time with our code compliance. So anyways, just wanted to put a face with his name, and he'd be the person to reach out to now. So we're excited to have him.
Good to see you guys. Thanks.
Welcome aboard, Kate. Good to have you. Okay, Matt, we're now ready for the good news.
The good news. Well, fortunately, I do have a little better news than the last time we met. I don't have a presentation, but I did want to give some updates. Since we presented, I don't know, it's been, 6 weeks ago probably, I have some updates on the stored water that was discussed during that presentation. I mentioned during that presentation that our stored water from Provo River Water Users Association, they had initially put out a 50% allocation on that water. Since then, it's went to 69%. So that's a good piece of news. We'll get a little bit more water out of our stored water. One of our concerns was, and that Mayor Benz and I talked about this a couple weeks ago, was our surface water and how it was going to perform. When I talked to Mayor Benz at breakfast a couple of weeks ago, told him it was performing worse than I thought it was going to, but the truth of the matter is it's performing pretty erratic. It's really temperature. It's really, the temperature is involved in way the surface water is performing right now because the snow elevation is so high. So if it cools off, the stream out of Dry Creek basically just goes away. When it gets really hot, we have been able to get some flows the last couple of weeks and still getting some flows from Dry Creek right now. And actually, I thought it would be gone by now, and it's still kind of hanging in there, which is a piece of good news too. It's not a lot, but it's more than I would expect it would be this time of year with what snow was up there, so that's some good news. Most importantly, we've had some timely rainstorms, which have been a huge blessing. As you guys all know, those rainstorms have been a great blessing to us, and the best part about it is the citizen response. Lehi City has really, their conservation effort, our citizens and other water users have really shut off their clocks during them storms. Just the last couple of weeks, 319 acre feet in the last 2 weeks of saved water because of them storms over the 29th and 30th. April 1st to date, The water department has delivered 517 acre feet less than we did last year in that same time frame, and that's 168 million gallons. So pretty impressive conservation effort so far. Hopeful that Mother Nature continues to bail us out throughout the rest of the year, but in better shape than I thought we would be when we met the last time we met. Questions?
My only question is, we continue to stay on the state 2 watering a week, correct?
Yes.
So we will stay on that.
Yep. Our intentions are to stay into phase 2. I've been hopeful from the beginning that we wouldn't have to go any more aggressive than that, and stay in stage 2 throughout the whole summer would be our plan to conserve what we do have.
Great.
I guess one question we get a lot of questions from residents on watering during certain times of day that is usually the school district.
Yeah.
So do you have like a direct POC with the school district for when we get those complaints?
The school district is a lot like our own parks department. They water such a huge area that for them to be able to water 2 days a week and be able to get through all their zones, it's such a huge watering time frame that and it doesn't bother us that they water off peak. It actually kind of helps us out that some users do water off peak so that we don't see the huge peaks in our storage reservoirs. So basically, it's the same thing as you've heard from our parks department. There's such a huge area and so many zones to get through that sometimes they have to water during the day.
Okay, thanks.
That will help remove some stress from because nothing makes me more stressed than a 1 o'clock watering of a baseball field.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
So do you think if we continue kind of doing what we're doing, citizens doing what we're doing, that we'll be able to just kind of maintain?
Yep, maintain. Stick with the 2-day-a-week schedule. Obviously, our messaging will continue to be to stick with that phase 2 watering schedule, and then take advantage of the storms we do get. As we have done, the citizens have done, as I mentioned. If we can take advantage of those storms, turn your sprinklers off, your clocks, let them for a few days until that storm and what good it did do is gone, and you need to water again, but to take advantage of what Mother Nature does give us.
And do you know if you have been able to send out any notices to people who've been watering a lot significantly?
We haven't. We lost our code enforcement officer. We were building that relationship before he left. I think we've made a few phone calls and people we touch base with out in the field, but there hasn't been a lot, no. There are a few that we know of that are not following the 2-day-a-week, but just the manpower to get out and visit those, we haven't made any yet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, next item, 2.2, library book return update. Mr. Boyle.
So Chrissy Seeley from the library is here to answer questions about the proposal that we had a couple of months ago about phone calls to collect books for those people that might not be able to come in to the library, and she has some data and information on that, how that's working, and is here to answer any questions that you have for that. So.
Hello. So we did put out on social media that we had the availability for patrons to come in. They can call us. We will come out. We will either pick up what they need to return, or if they have a hold or other items that they would like to pick up, we can take that out to them. Surprisingly, we haven't had a lot of usage. We've had a total of maybe a dozen. So there hasn't been high usage, but we feel like those who have needed to use it have used it. We've tried to let people know if they come in and we see that they're having a difficult time. We've tried to let them know that that's available. So that's kind of the usage of what we've had right now. There have been a few who have been like moms with little kids, but the vast majority of those are older, like senior citizens, who it's a little harder for them to get in the building. And so they're the ones who typically use that on a regular basis. So, questions?
Well, I know that a lot of older people don't use social media, so do you have, I know we talked about there being signs and designated parking spots. Is that with a phone number on there or something?
There is a designated spot with a sign on it.
I mean, I've seen the one designated spot that says 10 minutes, but I think when we talked a couple months ago, it was about having signs, kind of like a grocery pickup thing where you have a number on the spot that you can call to inform people. Like, I don't know if that was, I heard there was some signs that were ordered or something.
I haven't done anything specifically. That would probably be something that Steve would do if they were, if that was planned. But at the moment, I guess my understanding was for a little while, let's watch it and see what the need is. And I just haven't seen that there's a huge need. I do know that that is a challenge, that those who need this information the most are not on social media. And so, that's why we've tried, as we've seen patrons come in, to let them know that that is a possibility, that they can just call us and we're happy to run things out. But it is a little harder to get that message out to the senior citizens in particular.
Yeah. And even younger people. Okay. Has there been any, are there signs, Steve? Do you know?
No, signs have not been ordered yet.
Okay.
Realistically, it's kind of one of those things, I'm waiting for verbiage, and so we need to
Yeah,
talk.
if we feel like it's really needed, then I say, yeah, we could get some, and we can put them up.
Yeah.
I just, as we've watched it, I just haven't felt like there's that much need. I mean, we're not seeing the response from it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's over the last month, you say?
Yeah, a month and a half, 6 weeks.
Okay.
Just to echo Councilmember Freeman, I would support getting the signs with a number on it, and maybe putting it in the newsletter when it goes out with utility bills, letting people know that this is an option.
So to that point, to be fair, we haven't publicized this a lot. It's mostly been as we've received requests or had calls come in for that, and we're happy to publicize that. The one concern that we do have with publicizing it is that we anticipate if there is a greater need, do we have the staff to be able to address that, right? So I guess that's part of what we need to explore as well as that happens, with the understanding that if we do put a sign up and start to publicize that, and we may need to hire some additional staff to do that. But that's probably good feedback that we need to take back and implement kind of the next step in that. So the 12 that Christy had reported on has mostly been people that have come in, expressed some concerns about getting into the library, or called expressing some concerns, and we've said we're happy to come out and pick up those books as needed. And so, yeah, so we can take that back and communicate that back.
Well, that's different information than I remember, because a couple months ago when we spoke about it, it was that it would take significant staffing to man a drop box, but that the library would be able to handle a couple parking spots with signs. And on that door. That was my understanding of the work session, was the drop box was too prohibitive with staffing and the logistics, but that signs were okay and would be able to be manned. So
and I think you're right. I think that was the direction that the conversation went when we had that meeting. We have estimated, Christy has some numbers here, that if we were to have a Dropbox, we estimate that it would probably be about an additional $60,000 a year in wages for that. I think as far as the phone calls going, I think we're just not sure what's going to happen there. So it could be status quo. It could be we need a couple extra pages to go out there and do that. I think, to be fair, I think the staff down there have been a little bit apprehensive to message that a little bit, because they are worried about being overloaded with their work. But
one of the other things that we've noticed is, here again, getting into a new building, we had no idea what our numbers were going to do, and our checkout rates and everything else have, of course, increased dramatically. So what we didn't, at that time when it was the conversation, it was, oh yeah, we can probably do this. Now we're so busy, we're like, oh, this might be a problem. It might be a problem if we have to have somebody right there to do that each time. So
Can I ask, are you comparing your checkout rates to the warehouse situation or when we had the other library, right? Does that make sense? What is the increase
Right.
to?
The numbers that I've been getting, in looking back, they are significantly higher than the warehouse. They're still higher than what we had in the old library. So, like even just, we bought a whole thing of brand new library cards. They've almost all been given out. We've had that many patrons coming in. Like 700 families come in to get library cards, and
That's awesome.
yeah, so it's great, and we love that. It's just, we're getting busier and busier, and we do have concerns of how we'll manage that, so.
And my understanding is that library usage for a lot of kids and families goes up in the summer. So I don't know, hopefully we're comparing to last June or last May, you know what I mean? Like, not comparing to February or whatever, because
Right,
that
no.
makes a difference, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions?
So just to summarize, if there's no other questions, is we'll go back, we'll work on getting some signage with a phone number, and maybe push that out through our social media and newsletter, and then continue to track and see what kind of usage we get.
Yeah. Well, and it makes me wonder, we have 2 checkout desks. I mean, 3 checkout desks. We have 3 checkout desks.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I know this was pre-planned, but there's probably creative ways to consolidate that and to utilize staff in different ways. So, yeah. I know that other libraries have 2 stories and somehow do it. So, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll look at and see what we can do for that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 2.3, discussion of NICE Healthcare Service Renewal Agreement. Mr. Andy.
All right. Let's see here. All right, are you able to see that? No? There we go. All right, so David is out of town and asked me to come, so thank you for making time for me, Mayor and Council. Yeah, this is just a discussion about NICE Healthcare. It is on the agenda tomorrow as part of the consent agenda, so a chance to kind of go over what NICE Healthcare is. I did get some questions today from Councilmember Freeman, so hopefully we can cover all of those, and if we have additional questions, love to talk about those. So really briefly, NICE Healthcare, a way to think about it is that it is a direct primary care service. The idea is like if you had an on-site clinic where you could go and get your primary care needs taken care of. However, instead of just one brick and mortar facility, they're able to visit you here at work. If you have a need here, they can visit you at your home. They can do telemedicine, so if you have virtual call is something that's better for you. But beyond just kind of what you might think of as normal telemedicine care, they are able to provide things like we've had employees get an x-ray in their office. They can do an EKG in your living room if you need to get that. They offer mental health therapy services. That's done virtually. They can also do physical therapy, and then they have prescription medications. They're able to provide a large list of medications for free for those that qualify, and then there's also a list of discounted medications. So from our first quarter, we don't have quarter 2 stats yet, so this is looking January to March. This is a little overview of what employees have used so far with NICE Healthcare. So we had 126 visits, so this is covering all the different services, so whether it's physical therapy or mental health service. They estimate that saved about 206 hours. Instead of having to go to a clinic and get seen, they can do it, in their office or on their phone in the car, whatever their situation may apply. And then $51,246 saved. This is the savings to employees. This is not the savings to the city. There are, of course, savings to the city. Those can be calculated in a couple of ways. PEHP, which is our insurance provider, gives us a 1.2% savings on our premium by having NICE Healthcare. And then additionally, any services that go through NICE Healthcare do not hit our plan, so there's savings that way as well. And then just a little bit about what Lehi City employees think about their service with nice healthcare. A little over 97% thought that it was explained to them simply in a way that they understood. A little over 97%, excuse me, said they felt listened to, and then just shy of 95% felt that their care was better than when they had last gone to a clinic. Just real quickly then, what the contract is for that you'll be seeing tomorrow. It's $45 per employee per month. This is already factored into the budget. This is something the finance department's aware of, so that has been included there. We're looking at a 2-year contract. If for whatever reason the council in a year from now is not interested in renewing that contract, we have a 60 days notice that we need to give them, and we can still end that contract with them. And like I mentioned, this is on the consent agenda for tomorrow. What questions do you have about Nice Healthcare or the contract?
So it says that you said we save 1.2% on premium. So can you give me a dollar amount for that, please?
Yes, so that's about $83,000.
Okay. So it's $83,000 of savings, and this costs $243,000.
So the cost is $45 per employee per month. Last year, that was about $179. That savings, though, that you just mentioned is only the savings of the premium. So that's not it's not factoring in savings that would come by not hitting the plan. We don't exactly have a way to estimate that because we don't know what the services were provided necessarily and what that would have cost if it had hit our plan. Does that make sense?
It's the savings to the city, the organization. I'm not saying to the, you know what I mean? I'm saying that's the city the organization. That's what I'm saying. Right?
That's also what I'm saying.
Okay.
Right. So we have 2 ways of getting savings through using Nice Healthcare. The first is the premium reduction, which is that 1.2%. And then also just because employees are using Nice Healthcare, it's not hitting our plan, so that our premiums aren't being raised because it's not hitting the plan. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. So does the insurance EHP we have, does that provide telehealth care?
They do provide a telehealth option. It does not offer all these other things. So it doesn't offer x-rays, prescriptions, mental health therapy, any of those types of things. It's a very basic sore throat telehealth kind of situation, if that makes sense.
And is that, does Lehi City have to use PEHP? Is that like the government entity has to use that? Or
we don't have to. We've gone out for bid when we have bids, and that's been our selected provider based on cost and services.
Okay.
Question. So as we've been using this, have you noticed, or do we have like data over time, how employees have increased usage? They're being, sorry, my phone's going off. And I guess just being able to help employees understand the program. I know that like when it was available, even though you weren't on healthcare, I was using it, but trying to find it as more of a immediate care was a little bit more difficult to like get things scheduled and trying to navigate it, but things that we can do to make sure that the employees are being able to utilize it more and get help. So I was just wondering data on that, what you've seen.
Sure, yeah, so our utilization has gone up a year. So this, again, I'm looking at quarter one of 2024. We went up about 4% in terms of usage. So certainly we can do more. We can try and, give better education, help people to know more about it in our marketing and things like that. But we are seeing an increase in usage.
Okay.
So this sounds like it's, from what I hear, it's more than telehealth. It's more of a concierge, really,
Yes.
medical.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions for Andy? Andy, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate your time. Okay, item 2.4, parks funding and priorities discussion. Mr. Marchbanks.
That's hard enough to do with one hand, or two hands. All right, well, thanks for having me today. So this is kind of a heavy conversation, and I apologize. I've tried to organize it the best I can, and if you have any questions in between, let me know. If I'm not sure, I've got Trent and Sean here with me as well today that they can help me talk and figure it out. Mostly what I wanted to talk about is what we have and what we're getting. The how we're going to do it, there's a couple different solutions to that, and that's going to be a bigger, deeper conversation that we're going to have as we go. So currently, right now, if you look at our park master plan, these are the things that we have listed in that. This is outdated as of a year ago. We've added about 40 to 50 acres since then. So we have 52 developed parks, 413 acres. That 413 acres is actual park space acres. That's not our open space acreage. So 8 baseball fields, 4 practice fields that aren't reservable, markable, anything like that. Basically a backstop out in the middle of a piece of grass. 24 soccer fields, 7 tennis courts, 13 pickleball courts, 2 disc golf courses, 1 skate park, 2 splash pads, 3 if you count the Legacy Center's open splash pad area as well. 4 fishing sites, that's not including Dry Creek Lake at this point. 30 restrooms, park restrooms, 2 dog parks, 7 horseshoe pits, 24 reservable pavilions, and 16 trailhead points or access points onto our trail systems. We have a pretty robust system as it sits currently. But when we talk about that, we still have area plans that aren't completed, that we have areas in town that are still working on different areas, and lessons learned that we've done in the last few years of how our impact fees work and what we can and cannot do with them. So this high-level slide just kind of tells you what our commitment is on our impact fees towards those area plans that we have. The last one, that River Point, is not an area plan. It's just a development out kind of in the Holbrook area, out in Edgeholmes area. But Holbrook Farms area has 100% of the impact fees that they generate goes back to Holbrook Farms area. Traverse Mountain has an 80-20 split with the city. And realistically, it's closer to a 95-5 just due to the fact of rising costs and how what we've had to do with our parks to be able to make them actual parks up there. The impact fees at the time of the area plan were such that they were different, and the wish list or the requirements on that area plan are so high that we've agreed to that 80% doesn't cover it. And so we are spending more money up there. Cold Springs, though that area plan on our end of things is taken care of as far as the park open space is done, we still spend 100% of the impact fees that we generated from that to that area. In addition, we have to go back and do more work out there. So that will be plus whatever we have to do in the open spaces at some point. River Point, on the other hand, we worked with the developer up front due to these other situations that we've been in, and we came up with a matching participation on that. So we'll put in a matching amount, they'll put in a matching amount, and we'll have a great park because of it. They were good to work with and able to do that. So that one worked well for us. I'm sure so currently, what does it take to build a park? So right now we're anywhere from $7 a square foot to $10 a square foot. So that's $448,000 an acre if we go on our high end. As of late, as the bids come in, that's closer to what we're spending. Frankly, if we go much below that, we're talking about just grass space. That's not good for anybody. That's very, very easy to maintain. But as far as the usage, as far as maturity, slides, anything, it's not a usable piece of ground other than just open space. And then we have other issues come up from that as well. Impact fees. So as you all know, impact fees, what can they be used on? Anything of note that has been noted in our either area plans, master plan, and I'm kind of looking to Dean at this because this is changing a little bit. This is what I know. So hopefully I'm telling you right, and you can yell at me if I'm wrong. But they have to be on our plan to be able to build and be qualified for park impact fees. So they can be used to expand areas. They can be used for new construction, as long as it's a substantial project that will last at least 10 years. It can't be just something that we're going to go put in for a couple of years, demo out, and then redo. So, expansions of playgrounds, parks, open space, new restrooms, sports complex, shelters, lighting systems, that type of thing is all qualifiable with our impact fees. It can't be used for maintenance. It can't be used for staffing. It can't be used for general practices, general operations, fertilizer, things of that nature. Those are things that we can't use it for. Part of the problem that we keep seeing is we have our impact fees and they're already dedicated to areas. And so when it comes to our regional parks that we have, we can't count on those as funding mechanisms because basically it'll never be built up full enough without being spent on the trigger points that are coming up to be able to use them. There's just not enough leeway in between the two of them from what we're spending on the park to be able to make it work, to be able to save any money to do anything of any sort of substantial park. And so that is a challenge that we keep facing. So our current park system, this is kind of our current park system. What I've got on these next few slides is our upcoming. What do we have to look forward to? What do we have to staff for and demand for the next upcoming future? So Holbrook 2 is a 27-acre park. That should have been built this year. We entered into an agreement with the construction of 2100 North that we let them stage on that ground, and they're building us a trail system to go through it as well. And so that the park won't be under construction until 2029. We had plans, they worked out great. We changed them a little bit when we had a bridge come in, so we'll have to go back and replan that a little bit. But in 2029, we need to be ready to do that. The trigger points for the area have already been met, so we do need to work on that one. Holbrook 3 was a small access into a trail system. The HOA had a piece of property next to it. It was about 1/3 of an acre, if I'm remembering right, piece of ground. We worked with them and said, give us the access, we'll give you the park. And so the Holbrook HOA is taking care of that. That's not on our system anymore. So that one's gone. Inverness Trail System. So most of the open space that the city will obtain up in Inverness is all that mass open space. We will have a massive trail system going through there, which you guys have seen in the budget this year, that 1.5 that will be spent through the next probably 3 to 5 years to be able to get that trail system up and operational. But that will add another 600 acres. So we'll have about 1,500 acres of open space up on the mountain that will be in that easement. Perry Homes still owes us about 1 acre of property due to development up there in that same area. West Canyon, we're supposed to have a 5-acre park. Again, that is only if the houses go in that will happen. Shadow Ridge Phase 2, that's currently under construction. Construction will start in about 2 weeks. That's our downhill bike park up there. That finishes the 4 additional acres from Shadow Ridge Park, so it's a 14-acre piece of, no, it's just a 10-acre piece of property. But that'll be the last 4 acres that we'll develop. We've worked with the water department. They've got their main line that goes through there raised up so that we can finish that piece of property. East Canyon, which we're calling Lakeview, we are developing 13 acres of that piece of property up there. The rest will still stay native. It's got great lookout views. It's got a slide and things, we brought that to you 2 weeks ago and had you approve the contract on that for development. And then River Point out in the Edge Homes area out by Holbrooks. Our regional parks that are upcoming, you know about all of these. Family Park Phase 2, 45 acres. Mellow Roads, 55 acres. Jordan Willows, 95 acres. So Jordan Willows is not new by any means, but it's the open space that we have down in Jordan Willows subdivision. So with our high-level master plan that we want to do for that, we'll be able to start funding and figuring out how we are going to improve that area, not just have a few walk paths that are dilapidating. And then we go to the general area. We have Cold Spring Ranch. That's one out in Cold Springs that I keep talking about that needs major upgrades. Dragonfly, we have 42 acres down there. Mill Pond, about 40 acres if you include the water and paths and trails. There's nothing required on that, but at some point I'm sure that something will want to be done with it, whether it be walk paths, whether it be trails, whether it be what, I'm not sure. And then Dry Creek Lake. When we get to Dry Creek Lake, we're about a month away from opening. Currently, right now, we're waiting on signage. We need to figure out if we're going to change the name so that it can be different from Dry Creek Park. So if we do have emergency issues, we're not confusing our emergency responders. We're working with the Metro District right now, trying to figure out what name can be on that so that make sure that they're okay with it. And then, so this is just all of them. This is everything that we've got coming online. So if we talk about just open park space, what are we going to do? We've got 250 acres coming online. If we talk about our open space, it's 600 plus acres. Currently right now, our staff is working at about 35 acres per FTE. The standard or the best practices is about 20 acres per FTE. Some of these big parks that we're talking about are sports parks. That means that it's closer to about 15 acres per FTE unless we change our practices and do something different, which I've alluded to doing things on that as well. So I guess the bigger question is how do we get this funded? How are we going to take the small bite out of this apple to keep going? Because we're kind of to the point right now that building new parks, they're not turning out great because we can't maintain them. And that's a hard solution. I mean, it's proposed that we get 3 people this year. This is going to be the same topic that we have for the next several years due to the fact of the amount of acreage that we keep bringing on. None of these parks that you see here are talking about new subdivisions when we have a 3-acre piece of property that's handed to us due to open space requirements when a new development comes in. Like I said, last year we got 65 acres just between everything that we did. It's kind of that unknown. So as a department, we keep coming up with we keep trying to find the better solution. How do we do this? You know, we put ourselves on a smart controller system so that it's on our phone, so we can take care of it, so we can operate, so we can do. But a lot of the things that we do, and we also outsource all of our mowing. If we didn't outsource our mowing, that's another additional 8 FTEs that we'd have to have right now. And instead of the $800,000 that we're paying for that, we're doing it with $200,000 a year through external service, 250-ish, somewhere in there. So these are the things that we have coming up. What am I missing? What questions do you have for me?
When we met a few, maybe 2 months ago at the Parks building, and we talked about them, we gave them numbers. My memory is that we were talking about $100 million of to develop these new parks. Is that still accurate?
So estimating what we do down, in fact, we were flirting with the idea of doing all turf down at Mellor Roads if we were to do a baseball complex out of all turf, the outfields, the infields, all of it. And we got a bid back close to $47 million. I believe we can do it cheaper than that just due to the fact that I don't think that all turf is necessarily the way we want to go or the right way to do it. But that's a pretty close, I mean, if we were to do that, that would decrease our manpower dramatically. We could probably operate that site with the manpower that we currently have on our baseball side of things, on our open sports fields. If we were to upgrade all of our fields that way, not just that one, but then go and put infield in the other two. So yeah, I'm going to say that's pretty accurate to what we're going to do.
And just to be clear, if you could go back, I think a slide or two.
Yeah.
When you were talking about these ones.
Yep.
And then I know there was a couple other when we had met that we had talked about, but
Yeah.
the sum total of our park development needs, not for FTEs, but just to develop the parks, is around 100 million.
Yeah, I would
With
say
or without
that,
the turf, without the turf, I guess.
Correct.
And then
if
with
I
turf,
said
it's
if
150.
that had some upgrades in it, that had new
Yeah.
lighting for our sports fields, that had some of those things.
Yeah.
So our priority list is basically Mellor Roads. We want to get that done. We've created an eyesore down there. We're trying diligently to get that actively taken care of. It's that one's a hard one because, you know, we took a piece of open ground under the assumption that we would be building soon and brought in dirt. Now we have dirt there and no real funding. And so it's a hard, you know, I hate screwing up nature to wait, but it did save us a dramatic amount of money. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just the long-term care and what does it look like.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Mayor, if I can.
Yep.
For Jordan, I think it's supposed to be on this slide. Are you talking about Jordan Willows or are you talking about Willow Park?
Nope, Jordan Willows. Willow Park's not on here.
Okay.
I mean, it's a developed park. It needs upgrades in every sense of the word, but yeah, it's not up and coming. We already have it, so I didn't include much of what we have that way.
Okay. All right. I was going to ask.
Please ask because
I was going to talk about Willow Park just
Please
because you know, I think we all agree that we can do something there.
Uh-huh.
And of course, the county maintained it at one point. We took it over, of course, and then. But I'm trying to figure out the best strategy. Do we talk with the county because we have the burden of maintaining it, right? But it's not fully ours. It's leased, and there's some restrictions in what we can do with it. With that land, right? It has to, my understanding, and Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, it needs to benefit the county, not just Lehi residents, right?
Correct. It has to be a benefit to the community, basically, the surrounding communities.
Yeah.
So yes.
So I guess I'm just curious if should we talk with the county, see what options they're comfortable with? Because I feel like if we're maintaining it for the next 100 years and we're spending all the money into it, I think we should have a little bit more control over what we can do with that land. So I'm just kind of spitballing. I'm curious to hear what staff and the rest of the council say, but, or maybe we come up with something where they actually participate more in the development of this park.
I really like the option. So I've never gone to the county and said, hey, we'd like to do this. And they'd say, oh, no, that's not happening yet. I mean, we've added dog park, we've added our shop, we've added a bunch of things down there. We have 1,000 trees down there. When we started, we had 860. Even after us taking down all of the trees, we're increasing. Honestly, if there is an option that we want to come up with, my suggestion would be we go and talk to them about buying it outright and being done with the county side of it. That was part of the agreement that they could have use of the land. Well, it's like everything else. If the county needed somewhere to park a dump truck, we're not going to tell them no. I mean, we would hope they would treat us the same way. You know, it's kind of that portion. And so I think that there's an opportunity if those things arise that we should. I mean, I never see us not wanting that as an open space. The usage of it, I totally agree. It needs to be something.
Yeah, and I guess for the reason why it wasn't just transferred to the city, because right now it's under a lease. Was that just a cost-effective way to do it, or?
They just didn't want to relinquish the right at the time. They just wanted to have options, just like we did. They knew it needed to be upgraded. I was in a lot of those conversations.
And again, that was a different commission, right?
Yeah.
This commission may have different priorities or different
Right.
thoughts on the matter, but yeah, at the time, that's what they felt.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think that's a very possible option that we could look at and see what we wanted to do if something arises.
Yeah, and I guess the sequence of events would be, first we need to figure out what
Yes.
we want to do with it.
Very much.
And anything that kind of falls outside of the agreement, that lease agreement with the county, we can either say, hey, are you guys okay with us doing this and amending the lease? Or if not,
Yeah, then
we could.
How do we make this work for everybody?
Right.
And I think, honestly, in the conversations that I've had, that's kind of how I feel they would participate, is saying, yeah, let's figure out a way to do it. They've been very good to work with on anything we do down there so far.
Okay. Thanks, Steve.
As far as the calculations of your 35 acres per FTE, is that including the open space or no?
No, that is
Okay.
that is not our open space, and really trails is not included in that, but I do have an FTE added onto ours. So our trail systems, that's a very hard one to maintain. How far, because trails are done in feet, linear feet, instead of mileage or acreage. And so we have one trails employee currently that's tallied onto our 36 acres, but the trails is not tallied onto that 460 that we currently maintain.
And the TMTA, they're a pretty active group helping with the trails, are they? Or
Yes, but they have their own, they want it to be a very high functioning woodside, like Park City type course.
Okay.
We're trying very hard to pull it back and make sure it's still a recreation course. And so they are very active in it. They do a great job on it, but we have to keep a very tight close onto what happens with that.
Will you be using them as a partner to develop the Inverness trails? Okay.
Yes, we have people go to every one of their meetings, and I think they are part of the master plan, aren't they, Trent? Yeah.
Okay. And so you said that your priority with all of these, basically, some of them are impact fees, so it's just we have to do it. But
Yeah.
the optional-ish ones would be Mellor Roads. Is
Mellor
that what I
Roads
hear
to
from
me
you?
is our biggest need, frankly. What we do with it, I guess I can go into what our department thinks should be done first. Maybe that would, I should have added that slide. I really didn't want to get that far down into it due to the fact that I want you guys aware of what we've got coming up. And frankly, to me, this scares me to death, to think that I'm getting another third of what we already have, and we are struggling like we are. This could happen as soon as 5 years, depending on growth.
You're talking about
All of the impact
all of
fees
the impact
stuff.
fees. Okay.
Not our regional parks. Until we can fund those, I can't say when that'll happen. But frankly, if I go back to this slide here, that very well could be within 5 years. And so I look at that and go, if I had this tomorrow, there's no way I could do this. We wouldn't, frankly, be able to visit the parks once every other week. So you look at it that way, and that's undoable.
And can you tell me the difference? I remember we had a conversation where
Yeah.
you were talking about the difference in how Lehi used to do parks and how you do it now, whereas like a developer would say, here's just like some land,
Yeah.
or some sort of thing versus now.
So we really like to have the developer involved in the building of parks.
Now. Or always.
More because they're already on site with material, with graders, with excavators, all of the infrastructure type things. And so in the back end, it saves us or in the front end, it saves us a lot of money. What started happening is they would get big eyes and say, oh, we're going to do all of this, and then come and sell that to the council and to planning commission and everybody and say, hey, by the way, look, this is what us in the city are going to do. and then come on the back end of that and say, okay, well, we've done our portion, where's the rest? And their portion was using the impact fees that that they had generated through the houses. And we're sitting here going, okay, how do we have rest? What are you talking about? The parks doesn't make money. You guys all know that. And so how are we building without the impact fees? And, you know, or should we be putting 100%? And that's kind of that do we do 100% in all area plans? Do we not? And I know there's a lot of state code and questions and laws and everything that keep flirting with it. But realistically, we've never done that. We've never sectionalized our impact fees until these area plans started happening, and then it happened for us. We ran out completely of impact fees. All of our other projects kind of went on a back burner. And so that's why we went back to, okay, yeah, we don't necessarily want to see what you are proposing at all. We're going to take the burden on us of developing, designing all of it. If you want to have a seat at the table, come talk to us. We'd love to have you. But we want to be able to control those budgets as they go out, not have them control it and then us pay for it on the back end.
Because basically you have a development that advertises they're going to have this
Correct.
entity, this amenity, and then there's just an empty piece of land that's
Exactly.
undeveloped. At least that's what happened in my neighborhood.
And that's what
For
happened
over
in several places in the
a
city.
decade. There was a
Yes.
that we thought that someone, I hadn't lived there long enough, and someone's like, this was supposed to be a park.
Yep.
And we just, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what's happening.
They just left it.
That's happened several places throughout town, and that's been a very hard battle for us, is how do we make it so that we're not the bad guys in the situation, because we didn't promise it, frankly. It's not our area plan. We agree to it, but we don't develop it.
Okay.
So, yeah. Any other questions for me?
Steve, I have some questions.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Can you clarify, maybe I missed it, but did you say that it's less expensive to contract out for mowing than to have it, or is it more expensive in-house or contracting for mowing?
It's very less expensive to contract it out. There will be a day that we'll look at it and it'll probably even out where we have so much acreage, but we're not at that point yet. So I estimate it would be about $800,000 for us to mow internally. And that's just staffing. That's not equipment. We're talking probably two $100,000 lawnmowers and two or three $20,000 lawnmowers to boot, plus the trucks. One day the numbers will catch up to each other, but we're not there yet.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. And then just to help me understand your biggest concerns, is it the one-time money to get some of these parks built, aside from Melrose, or is it the ongoing cost for staffing to maintain the parks, or is it some of both?
It's both. Frankly, it's both. Right now, honestly, if I could not build another park until I could get reassured that we're going to have people here, I'd do that.
Okay, but your concern is that with the impact fees that we have to get some of these parks built.
Right.
In that 5 years, is that, okay, so we'll have to have the staff for those?
Yes. So realistically, we have trigger points on all of our impact fee monies so far that we have to build when they have certain amount of people in the area. And Holbrooks has reached that. Triumph Park keeps reaching new levels, and I think we only have 3 left up there. Anyway, yeah, they keep reaching those development triggers that we have to be able to supply that as part of our agreements with them.
And so I know area plans, there's probably not much we can do about that, but when, like you mentioned, we're giving density bonus for open space. Have we and could we turn those over to HOA instead of having the city maintain those?
I am actively working currently on getting some of that taken care of or starting that process. I think that we can, for the most part. The issue that we would face is if we were trying to turn over larger pieces to HOAs, it's still required open space. I'm not positive if legally we have to own it or if they do. So that's something that we'll have to look at and work out. But we're already flirting with the idea of some of these areas that we don't necessarily use that only benefit HOA areas, going to the HOA and basically not doing maintenance or telling them, you know, frankly, we will do the bare minimum and the ground will be ours, and you guys can take it, and then at that point, do what you want with it. Maintain it, make it as pretty as you want. So that is something I'm actively working on. We've got letters being drafted currently to be able to start going out to some of those areas.
Okay. And have you looked at underutilized parks? And I know there's one by my house. I have like 5 parks I can walk to, and one, I hardly ever see anybody there. So is it, you know, worth the cost of maintaining it and replacing equipment and that?
Yeah.
Have you looked at that kind of thing?
So we actually just went into a contract with the tracking agency that can tell us what our usage is. That is new as of about a week ago. That we can actually get the data. I would hate to go and say I don't hardly ever see anybody there just off of visual or word of mouth, and then come on the back end and get beat up. So we will start having that capability. We're getting trained on it currently. So this is something that we can approach probably early next year, now that we're in the summer months. Maybe even get historical data on it, but yeah, nothing currently that I would feel comfortable with jumping that ship on yet.
So you're looking at it. That sounds like a good way to approach that.
Yeah.
So I wonder, I don't know if you have this data available right now, but with the parks we're obligated to, especially with impact fees, can you give us a number of how many more staff park employees you're looking at needing, so we can kind of plan the next few years out?
I can spitball it, but it's not going to be close. And frankly, that's really hard because I think that we need to create our own standard. I can tell you right now, we don't operate within mine or my staff's standard. That's a very, very hard thing to do when you go to work every day and you're just kind of going, okay, well, I almost got what I wanted to do done. That stinks. Nobody wants that. But just spitballing, I would say we need at least, my guys are going to get mad at me for saying this, but probably 7.
Per year.
No, total FTEs.
For all.
Yeah, that would be within the next 5-ish years. 5-ish years.
In addition to the 3 this year, right?
In addition to the 3 this year.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not counting those. Those are helping make up. Am I crazy? Yes, was that answer. Yes, was that answer.
Double that?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
What do you guys think? Get up here. Yeah, that's why I brought you.
I think you're right when you go to full-time employees, but then they're going to have additional seasonal.
Oh, there you go.
So it's about a third.
Yeah, so he's absolutely right. He's bringing up the fact that, yes, that is to run a crew. That is to have a guy that's driving the truck. But then you talk about seasonal employees when they're, you know, mid-season picking up garbage, doing actually the harder stuff. Well, not harder stuff, but the less technical part of it.
Because that ratio is about 2.
Yeah, 2 to 1. So then we talk about another, 14 part-time FTEs. So, yeah.
And I guess Michelle said something that kind of triggered something I've been meaning to ask you, and you might not have the answers now, but just as far as what we can do to outsource like certain areas. So I'm going to baseball games several times a week for my son over at Betts Park, and I always go and get a Coke or something from this concession stand. But I'm just wondering, you know, are there areas not only within parks, but even with facilities or maintenance or janitorial work, like where can we maybe offload some of that? I mean, even like I'm thinking baseball, like what if we got food trucks there, or if we had someone come in, would that be cheaper?
You know, we've been pretty diligent on checking those things periodically. Like our building's janitorial. I would love not to have to hire people for janitorial. That is a hard job to fill. We're always hiring. we do it so much cheaper. We buy the product cheaper, we clean cheaper, we do it, and it's a higher quality. We outsourced a couple of our buildings for a few years and had nothing but complaints from not only staff and residents. I mean, it got to the point that it's bad, and you spend almost as much time chasing the management of that or the contracts as you do as hiring. And so I feel like we're pretty diligent on what we do that way. I would say, 2 years ago, we kind of come into a crunch and we couldn't hire seasonal staff down at the ballpark to do the concessions. We brought in a couple different food trucks. The problem is we're not set up to where they can use our buildings under their licensing. And so it's hard to, unless we rent the space to them, and then that kind of ties our hands for events. I can't say enough about looking into putting turf in our infield. I really think that is kind of the low-hanging fruit for us at this point. It's going to cost us a couple $1 million, but it's going to save our staff time to the point where I think that we're going to be able to get a lot more done, or at least spread out a little bit more. We're talking 80 hours, or how many guys? 4 guys for 6 hours for ballparks? 4 guys, 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, prepping fields. I mean, we're talking prepping in between games at state tournaments. We're talking, and I think that brings in a revenue source as well, because there's no rainouts. If we want to play on them 6-7 days a week, we can play on them 6-7 days a week. The only thing that we're going to have to do is maintain when they tear it and patch it and make sure it's level. And I mean, there are still things that we're going to have to take care of, but it's not the staffing issues that we're facing. I don't think it's worth putting it out in the outfields. I think that the water's, it's expensive and it's a very valuable resource. It's just not fiscally responsible to go put it out there. It's going to cost us millions if we do that. Instead of a couple million, it's going to be 10s to 15s. But that's something that could really stretch our manpower, is to be able to do that. And upgrading some of our infrastructure, such as our lighting down there in some of those areas. We have tried very hard in the last few years to make sure that things are full year use. You'll hear another presentation coming up about another option that we may have up at Family Park for winter use through a third party. Things of that nature that could potentially bring in revenue to help increase and upgrade and some of those things. And so it's something that our staff is very passionate about, is doing things the best we can, but also not spending money where it doesn't need to be spent. So,
yeah, and the difference between, you think about the turf, yeah, it's a big one-time expense, but it's more of a capital expense. And it feels like going through this budget season, it's a little bit easier to find those one-time capital expenditures. We have the park tax, right? It's the ongoing costs that are killing us.
Exactly.
With full-time employees or even seasonal. So.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, Steve.
Any other questions for me?
So can you tell what are the highest maintenance type parks and the lowest maintenance?
So that's a hard one. Realistically, our highest maintenance parks are our sports parks, our sports fields. Anything that has to do with organized sports on it, that's what we classify that as. So it's Olympic Park and Vets Park and Sports Park and North Lake and Family Park. Then from there, we go into our leisure park systems. Our leisure parks are probably the second on that, but I'm going to say our regional parks, our sports parks are our highest. So Family Park is number 1, if not 2, and that competes very closely with our sports parks. But if you're talking about what kind of park it is, turf is the easiest thing in the whole world to maintain. You go plant it, you water it, you throw water on it, and you walk away. The minute you start adding trees and you start adding walk paths and you start adding plants and pretty things and the things that everybody wants, that's when the xeriscape, it kills us. Maintenance-wise, it is a nightmare because you're always there pulling weeds, applying chemical to kill Our water is extremely dirty. We change filters in some of our parks every day, or every cycle, excuse me. Sometimes, or when it gets really bad and we're sucking from the bottom of the ponds, when we are in this type of situation, we can't get through a watering cycle. And that's when you'll see us have these big donuts in the middle of it where there's a nice, pretty green strip and nothing else. But I don't know, I hope I answered. Turf is the easiest thing to maintain and the cheapest.
Okay.
By far.
Yeah, that's my understanding. So it sounds like you're talking about baseball is kind of probably the highest maintenance of
Baseball and family parks killing us. Anything with the splash pad.
Okay.
Those are crazy.
Yeah, because people takes a lot of high use.
Yeah.
And then what about cost wise? Would you say highest cost?
To build or to maintain?
Both.
To build, it is also those. Okay. Your biggest price tag is going to be on anything that's, a regional draw or sports draw. And then from there, it goes to just your neighborhood park type thing.
Okay. And then for water usage, we kind of talked about that a little bit, but did I understand correctly that the parks didn't turn on any water until May 15th this year?
No.
No, they
we
didn't. Or they did not turn on water until May 15th.
We did not turn on water until May 15th.
Okay.
We did not start testing water until May 15th.
Okay. Yeah, I just want that to be like public because residents were sending me pictures of parks but I think that the city did a great job of trying to be responsible examples and stewards of it, and
we worked very closely with Matt and the water department. Frankly, if there's not water to be had, I want to go get a drink when I want one. I hope everybody else feels that way. I don't want to have to, I'm very passionate about the parks, but if it's dry, it's dry, and I'd rather be able to go get a glass of water. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, I thought Matt was playing the door.
Sorry.
Yeah.
More question. Is there any possibility there might be some grants out there to help pay for the artificial turf on the baseball fields? Yeah. I know we look to the county a lot for the tourism tax. I don't know if that would.
The tourism tax, we utilize that every year. That's one that we already have plans for the next couple of years on that. Trent has saved us, I want to say, close to $2 million on projects with grants. I'm sure I can ask him and ask Bo's team to help look for some and see if that's a possibility. To tell you yes, I don't know that off the top of my head. Wouldn't surprise me though.
Any other questions for Steve? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our final item 2.5, the fiscal year 2026 to 2027 budget discussion. Before we get too far down this road, reminder we have been through this. I don't know that we want to necessarily uncover the whole thing. Is there some questions, however, though, with the council that need to be discussed before this becomes an item tomorrow?
It looks like there have been a few changes. I just have I have a couple questions, but it looks like a lot of kind of shifting of stuff. Can someone explain to me the fund balance reappropriation being higher in this budget than on the last one and kind of what that means? It's on page 8, and compared to the last budget, it was on page 13, or the original budget, I should say.
On page 13?
It's on page 8 of this current budget. It was on page 13 of the original budget, the OG budget.
Like where it just says fund balance appropriation?
Yeah, can you explain that?
Those are basically one-time expenditures.
Page 8.
So if we're using fund balance to do things like
Okay.
I'm gonna
So
cheat
basically,
because
we
I don't remember.
decided
But
to have higher one-time expenditures.
yeah, so things like
Okay.
the Legacy Center study we talked about, things that aren't ongoing expenses.
Okay.
So the budget really balances, except for those things we're using fund balance to pay for because we won't have those expenses next year.
Okay.
Mayor, if I may. Yep. So Dean, you've been a great partner throughout this whole process.
Thanks.
I know, this is, out of the 6 of us, 4 of us, this is our first time going through the budget cycle. And so I have a couple ideas of, looking forward to next year, how we would tweak it or change the timelines a little bit. But before I go into that, I'd love to hear from you if you have any ideas or suggestions about how we could make it more efficient, more effective next year, knowing how engaged this council has been the last couple months.
So
know
I'll
that's the
just,
hard one.
and I've thought this a few times, and obviously, it's not all my call, right? Like, I'm not over the budget. We put it together, we account for it, but the budget's really put together by the city and under the direction of the mayor and everything else. I guess my only comment, with all due respect, it seemed like when I try to put a budget together, I like to start from the top and work my way down, if you will. In other words, we had a lot of discussions on various things, tax increase, no tax increase, pay plan, all that stuff. Like, that seems like where we should start. Does that make sense? Like, if we start on those things, that helps me and Allison and Karma to put together the details of it. If we start in the line items and say, what's this, and it's never wrong to ask a question on what's in a line item. I'm not saying that, but when we're just doing different things in little pieces, it almost feels like we're starting it from the bottom and working our way up, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I think part of it was just us understanding.
Well, and it's interesting too, we've had, like, this is, I've been doing this quite a while with a lot of different councils, and a lot of times you're adding 1 or 2 people at a time, and this time we had 4 out of the 6 were new, and even the 2 that were here before had only been here a couple of years. And so it's like a lot of times you're doing things the same way for a long time, and it just rolls forward, and it's not a bad idea to look at things doing it a little different way. But this was just a year where we had a lot of new people, and it felt like a lot of things were coming in all directions. So I guess that's my only thought is, if we started with the high level things first and got those settled, I think it makes putting it together easier.
Yeah. I think just as I've thought through this, thinking through to this next budget cycle, which will have a little bit of a break between June and the end of the year. But I think what you said is 100% correct. I think, the tax increase question was, I think, changed everything. And it was kind of mid-course. But I think if the council's open to it, I think it'd be good to start some of these discussions in November and December. And I know that's during the audit time. So we would keep it lighter on the finance side. And I think, personally, I think it would be good for the council at least to come to some priority consensus. Maybe not perfect consensus, but just something where we can get together and say, okay, are we doing a tax increase? Are we not? Are we, what are some of the departments that we're prioritizing this year that maybe didn't get as much last year? And are we going for wages, or are we going for more headcount in those departments? Things like that, just to kind of maybe even have work sessions late in the year. And even during an election year, you could involve the council-elect or mayor-elect folks that in that discussion, right? Just keeping it fairly informal, no decisions made yet, nothing in the weeds with line items to that point. And then, but it would be good to talk about ongoing expenses and those priorities, the capital projects, the park tax, like kind of just getting some consensus. And I know we didn't even take office until early January, so it was hard to do that before.
Yeah, there are some of those capital things, if you think about it, that are a lot less maybe controversial, or maybe just, it's like we have X amount of dollars, how are we going to spend it? It's not a matter of lots of different variables coming into it.
Yeah, and I think I think having the five of us up here understanding and having our priorities out there on the table, by the time we hit January, it's going to be fairly smooth. And I would love to have the budget retreat maybe in early January, and just having 2 or 3 days of really digging deep and setting the priorities more formally for you, Dean, and for Jason and the mayor, and as you start to consider the tentative budget. I think there's kind of 3 categories I look at in the budget. It's kind of the year-over-year changes. I think that context is super helpful in understanding, like, okay, where was fire department in 23 to 24 to 25, 26, right? So we can see the trends and understand kind of the history, and then all of the current expenses, and then the requests for that budget year, right? I think that understanding, at least for me in my brain, understanding that order of things helps me make better decisions and with more information. And so maybe, I was thinking throughout, I guess starting in January until the budget's approved in late May or early June, just having a regular cadence of these work sessions and having departments come. I know we had a couple work sessions, very long ones, last month, but spreading that out over the course of 5 months, and we can just set those work sessions. It's pretty easy for us as a council and the mayor to kind of have every work session, at least 1 or 2 departments being able to come before us, give us information. We can ask questions, and then is there a set time for the tentative budget to be proposed to the council? I'm sure there's
It's the first
deadline. Yeah, go ahead.
First council meeting in May. We have to have the tentative
For the tentative budget.
finished. We've always done it a little early because Roundup week, right? Like, so we don't want to have a council meeting on Roundup week. So we've always moved everything back a couple of weeks. So.
Yeah, and so I think if we start that process, if it's in early January, maybe the tentative budget, depending on how the mayor wants to do it, it can come before us a little bit earlier. I know early May seems extremely late. I know we were ahead of the curve on that this year, but even earlier gives us a time to kind of go through it without too much, chaos. And
maybe there's a way, like, I don't know, I don't always think the best when I'm standing here in front of everybody, but maybe with the mayor and Jason, we can get some decisions on some high-level things done earlier, which could make the rest of the, maybe there's a way to focus on those things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and the chaos certainly doesn't come from you. It's usually from us. So, but yeah, just having that earlier timeline and process, I think, would be helpful. And even for new council members down the road, I think lets them dive into it pretty soon. Because I know it's tough. Everybody's coming back from break. But if we've already had that timeline starting kind of in November, December, so we're all aligned, and then kick off January, I think that would be helpful. And I think
just the things that you mentioned too, that like for finance, October, November, and December are really our busiest months because we're finishing up our audit. A lot of times we're getting it done, the middle of December before we're getting it.
Yeah, and I would hope those.
So some of the heavy lifting, we may not be a ton of help at that time. But,
yeah, that's fine. I think it's more, I guess, for the council just to start talking budget early. And finance, I don't think would need to be too heavily involved with the November, December discussions, but I think just helping us understand each other in an open meeting. And then by the time January hits, we've had those discussions already, so we're ready to kind of set priorities that the mayor can take for the tentative budget.
Can I clarify? So are you talking about the council talking in November, December about their priorities, basically? That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
Yes.
So not
Okay.
bringing in finance and department heads quite yet. Just more about having a discussion amongst us and Jason, Cameron, Bo, just to start talking through it, so we know, okay, our priorities for this next fiscal year. This is what I feel. Interested to hear what Rachel and Emily and Heather and Michelle think as well, and then it kind of sets a baseline so that January isn't just raw open space. It's we already have talked through a lot of those issues so that when finance comes into it, we'll be a little more prepared.
I can see that. I would on election year. I mean, we'll see. We have 4 new people again, but I want to make sure they have a voice in the beginning of January. Make sure that we listen to them too. So that's the only thing. But maybe we could get reports back or kind of try to understand, like, what did you say? The year-over-year changes or kind of some of those, their current budget, but they wouldn't be looking at their new requests at the time yet. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess we have time to kind of figure it out. I'm just talking very broadly, but yeah, we can figure out the specifics.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'm happy to follow your lead on that. If it was more conversation here, I just have a separate question. I don't want to change the topic if more people want to have input.
Go ahead, you're good.
Okay. Just on pages 83 to 88, or excuse me, 87, these are reflective of the mayor's budget, correct?
We didn't redo that whole thing. It just would have been...
Yeah, I think that makes total sense. I know why you guys did that, but I just wanted to clarify for any residents that go in and look at this, that this is specific to a budget two times ago.
We kind of had a budget, and then we had the letter that kind of adjusted that budget, and now we have kind of a memo that adjusts that. So, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted that clarity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor? Yes. So I do like discussing things earlier. I guess my only thing with that is we had a lot of priorities in the last one. I don't even know the number of millions of what the council prioritized last time because we didn't know.
Yeah.
Like we were just this moving target. So, and I kind of see that with the departments too, that they come in and they have really high asks, but they don't really know where the funding is available. And it be able to like break it down like, hey, here's what I guess our increase is, but here's our ask above if we needed to go and seek other funding. So it's kind of hard, I think, to start prioritizing things back in November, December when we really don't know what the new funds will be.
Yeah. I guess the thing that just coming to my mind, we've generally done just revenue projections once a year, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that we couldn't give some very preliminary looks at things in the fall to get a start, like we know if there's a recession going on or we know some things like that. So maybe there's a way to at least, maybe we're not putting a budget together in November, but maybe we can have some economic data.
Just something like if we were
going
to talk about it, maybe we should know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think we found with this, most of the discussion with the budget, regardless of how we've done it this year or any year, it's related to general fund, right? So when we look at our utility funds, they're pretty straightforward. We have a fee. The personnel portion of our utility funds is a really small portion of the whole fund. It doesn't overwhelm anything. Where with the general fund, it's almost all about people, right? And so maybe we can approach it rather than line by department. It's more like, let's deal with that first and then kind of see what's left. I don't know. There's probably some ways to look at it. That's not a wholesale change on what we do, but maybe just do it a little different approach.
I think we got some good ideas too moving forward, so we'll work through those. Any other questions on the 26-27 budget discussion?
Mayor, do you have any good comments?
Yes.
Thank you. So I do like James's idea. I would like to have department heads come in earlier in the year. It's kind of like what Steve just did, where he gave us kind of an overview of what's coming up, how many people he would need, what challenges he's facing. I think that would be helpful to know what we're looking at when the budget does come in for us, so that we kind of have a heads up and more in-depth detail of what's needed and why. So I kind of like for myself to have the department heads come to us sooner. Even if, the finance department is working on the audit or whatever, I think it would be helpful for at least the department heads to come talk to us. So those are my thoughts.
Mr. Mayor, can I add to that? I think that goes with this too. It's kind of also hard to know what to set our priorities as if we haven't heard from the departments to hear what their priorities are. So I kind of feel like when we do the council's priorities, we're really just shooting from the hip. But then when we get all the feedback, here's the actual money you have, here's what the departments actually need. So maybe we kind of reverse some of that.
Yeah.
And I think maybe just to kind of bridge the gap, I think it's helpful. I mean, Steve's presentation wasn't really related to this budget, right? But it was very informative, and I learned a lot. And so that's setting my brain for maybe next year. At least we have some of that context. So it doesn't necessarily have to be. The budget season isn't a vacuum, right? I think throughout the years we hear these things. We're going to be more informed, and then things will change, of course, between the start of the budget discussions to the actual budget. But yeah, I think we could probably do both. Just understanding the year-over-year context, that's not necessarily tied to the budget approval. It just helps us understand, like, okay, this particular department hasn't received a lot of love in the budget for like 2 or 3 years, and we should probably look at this more carefully.
Well, just the discussion, today, just like parks is in a bind in some ways, right? We have a demand for a lot of parks. We have made maybe some promises for some parks, but it's very difficult to staff them, maintain them.
Yeah, so I kind of like that if we can understand more the challenges of the departments, maybe later in the year, as kind of like an overview thing. Like, I mean, Public Works, right? We have these water leaks. Like, do we, like, just knowing we have this and this is what we've done about it, sort of thing. But we don't even necessarily need to have the money completely discussed. Like, they can ballpark it, like Steve, and say, well, probably would need this many staff over this many years, but it's not like at that level, maybe. This is what I'm thinking.
Well, and we do some things with the utilities, like you think of power, like we've gone through this big rate study, and there's been a lot of analysis and done a lot of things. And it doesn't just set rates, because it looks at all their expenses and all of those things. And we haven't really done rate study for water. We could, if we chose. Just the fund is a little simpler, but that's a way to look at some of that off season, if you will, too. And if you think about it in the general fund, what are most of our discussions on public safety, parks and rec, right? So obviously there's other things, streets and planning and all of those, but most of it's related to those two areas. And so maybe we spend more time looking at that a little bit more. And I was come back, like, if you looked at the finance department budget, like most of our department budget is people and a few contracts that we manage and the audit and a few things like that. It's not like, I think something like that would be good, would be easy to talk about, but it's some public safety and parks and rec that really are the wild cards. They just have a lot more demands.
Yeah, and
right?
Sometimes Public Works. I mean,
Yeah,
there's,
Public Works.
streets and sidewalks and all that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and we're fortunate here too
Sewers.
with streets. So many of our streets are relatively new. I've worked at cities where they're not, so a lot of our streets are in pretty good shape, where you've seen cities that are older that their streets are in a really bad shape, and so we're fortunate there. But things we can do now will help maybe prolong that time in the life on the streets.
So for the final budget, I'm going to ask again the question that Councilman Lockhart asked. Are those last pages going to be updated to reflect this budget, or they are not? Just the new request funded.
What we did is we took, I think what's in there. I did a little reconciliation that just started from here's where the tentative budget was, essentially the $1.7 million deficit, if you will, because that was the amount of the tax increase. And then I just did a reconciliation line by line to see how we got from there to zero.
Okay, maybe I missed that.
So
is that on the page?
Did I put that in there? I don't even know.
think you included it.
Okay.
But
I will.
You talked about it, but you haven't included it. So it's up to you.
I will send it out. I have it.
I think it was in the interim budget. There was a sheet.
I did have that, but I needed to add the things for this one. So I will email that out. And we should include it
I
because
just thought
that's
maybe I missed it.
Kind of like this. This letter is sort of that.
it's sort of that. But I have an actual spreadsheet. It just starts at this number and ends at zero. So
Okay, great.
sometimes I think
I
know
read
I've
through
done
the
it.
budget and
Sometimes
I compared.
think I've sent it and I haven't. But yeah,
It was a lot.
I'll email that out as soon as I get back to my desk. It's there.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dean? Jason?
A question for the council. So I think it was last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, I sent out a copy of the current campus master plan. Just wanting to know from the council, I know that there have been some desires expressed by some on the council about looking at Station 81, looking at other things on the campus. Do we want to put any money towards updating that plan, or is this council good with the plan as it sits?
I don't know that I want to spend money on updating anything unless we're ready to spend money on doing it.
Okay.
Because like if we spend money and then but we're not going to do it, then a future council may just come along and say, let's redo it again. So I don't want to spend money twice.
Yeah, I echo that. I think it would be really helpful, though, to have a roundtable work session where we pull out kind of a map and we talk through things. And I know some of the elements would have to be discussed in closed session as it's related to property. But anything that we can do to really just learn more about it and all get unified and united on the same trajectory, that would be great to have it on a work session.
Yeah, I'm looking at the master plan. Maybe I'm wrong, but I read it up, and it doesn't look like we're really completely doing that. It's like a piecemeal, but
yeah,
I mean, when I'm looking at
absolutely.
the buildings and the plaza and all the things, anyways.
We're still very early in the
I
process.
agree with Heather that unless we're going to spend the money, I think Station 81 to me is a priority. To me, the Legacy Center is a higher priority, to be honest. I think looking at the operational efficiencies and possible, I don't even know what you would call it, maybe renovations or something like that. And I talked with facilities, and they said that there were some ways that they could help 81 in the meantime. But I do think that 81 is a priority. I just, in my view, it might be more like number 2. But
yeah, and again, the
that's
only
just
reason
my
why I
view.
bring this up in this context is because the courts are in Station 81, so we just have to have an answer for that. Now, whether it's a long-term solution or a temporary solution, we just have to, again, game plan for it.
And I personally don't think that it makes sense to continue to have the court and the fire station as one unit. It just, to me, it doesn't make sense. And I think that some of us gave suggestions of where the court could be located, even temporarily, if the master plan idea isn't available. And I don't know if that has been explored.
Yes. So the thought of moving it to the existing city hall, that's not feasible. It just won't meet the safety standards that a court would demand. So again, that's why I bring up the question. The next step on the master plan technically would be to build the court and 81 around the same time. But to your point, I think it's hard to move forward with 81 without an answer or at least a plan on the court. That's all I'm saying.
My perspective is that this fiscal year, we're data gathering. So we're gathering the information on what it would take to renovate 81. We're gathering information on what it would take for an operations and possible renovation on Legacy Center. We're going to gather information on the court and where that may or may not go. And then next budget cycle, this council will be faced with, here are the facts that we have found. What would you like to do next? That's how I've seen it. Is that reflective of how you guys feel?
So not an architectural design and all the stuff for
So
81.
in order to know the full cost of 81, we would need to know the architectural design of it, right? So what I would actually love is to see the council come back with scopes of work for both of those projects, both the Legacy Center project and 81, so that we could see your full scope. And then we could know, okay, we've allocated these dollars, but what is the scope of the project as far as what we're asking for? And then we can lean into some of those pieces. That's how I see it with, open to.
And I'd also like to know the challenges of security at the old city hall, to be honest.
Steve can go on at length about it.
I can talk to Steve about it. It's fine.
I guess I'll go on. It won't work without spending a tremendous amount of money. And if money's no obstacle, then we could make it work. But
I think it might be.
I think it might be.
Well, I think so. One thing I'll just add for the I agree. It makes sense that the court and the fire station may be different buildings, but I also know it's more expensive to have two separate buildings than one building, right? So if we were to build a brand new Station 81, would it make sense to have it more multi-use, right? Like, I mean, not how it is now, where it's an older building and it was kind of retrofitted to what it's doing right now, but I think it makes sense if we can combine two purposes in one building and it saves money, then I'd be open to that. And I know, like, just looking through the city master plan, there's like a parking structure and there's like a library arts building. Obviously, a lot of this is mostly outdated because I think it's 6 years old. 2020 was when it was done last. So yeah, I think for cost efficiency, if we can combine efforts, if we were to bond for something large like that, it makes sense to combine the purpose.
Well, we can always begin with the end in mind, like this building, right? Right now, the library is housed here, but that's not its end. So when we look at the scope of work for Station 81, we can say, give us, phase one that includes the court, but also begin with the end in mind of what would phase two include, and we can, forgive my expression, but kill two birds with one stone, right? To your point, James, so.
Yeah, and I think, we all know that Station 81 with the court and the Legacy Center, those are the on the older end, we're going to have to, at some point in the future, we're going to have to replace those. So seeing what would be the best way to maybe do more at once for a lower price rather than, 3 separate buildings over time that eventually cost more money just with inflation as well.
Yeah.
And construction costs going up over time.
Yeah, it would be more cost efficient to do it sooner than later, but obviously we want to do it at the appropriate time. So, and again, by no means do I expect the council to make a final decision today. We can always amend the budget, right? If you're still undetermined on whether or not we want to do what study right now, we can always make that determination at a later date. So, just wanted to have the discussion.
Well, Mayor, can I make a comment?
Sure.
I totally support redoing the civic campus master plan. Again, timing, I don't know if this year's the right time to do that. I would like to see what the Legacy Center study says, and know how much that costs and how we go forward with that. But I would definitely like to present a different option and do a study on that that's a little more modest and doesn't contain all the high-end, expensive items that the current one has. Thanks.
Any other questions for Dean? Thank you, Dean. Okay, we are at item number 3, adjournment. I will happily entertain.
So moved.
Okay, Councilmember Newell, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilmember Lockhart. All in favor say yes.
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 Aye or yes, that works. Okay, looks like we're good. So we are adjourned till tomorrow. Our meeting starts tomorrow, I believe, Tisha, at 5.
4:30.
Is it 4:30? It is 4:30 tomorrow.
Yes.
So we shall see you at 4:30 tomorrow. Thank you for those that came. We appreciate seeing you.
Oh, yeah.